So let's start with the Minnesota Vikings. Josh Dobbs winning a game. Didn't even know most of his teammates' names on Sunday. But here's the question that I have for you for them, because they are still in the wild card race. I'm calling the division. They're not going to win the NFC North. But will they continue to play well enough to stay in the wild card race?
No, and it's not a shot at Dobbs. I'm really listening to some of the interviews and watching the interviews. How can you not root for him? That was incredible. I mean, he talked after the game just saying, look, I told the coaches, do not be afraid to call, anything in this playbook. I can do this. Like, I can execute this stuff. And there were moments in the game he had to go to Jordan Addison and go, hey, what's the route combination on this side of the field? Got it. Like, it was on the fly. He should be the highest paid backup QB in the NFL. He's not a starter. But, man, I'd love to have him on my team because he just seems like he is –
He's the young Teddy Bridgewater.
He's really smart, team-oriented. Dude, I just was happy for him. Now, here's the other thing. Man, if you're Atlanta, shut it down. Just shut it down. How do you lose to Josh Dobbs on no practice? You draft Bijan, you don't use him. You draft Pitts, you don't use him. Goodbye. I'm done with ATL. Done.
David, I'm going to say yes, because that may – you want to talk about privilege? That may be the luckiest team in the NFL. No matter what, they fall forward. You brought in a guy who didn't even know your lineman's name. He's over there practicing snaps with the center, and they still won. Yes, they'll keep finding ways. This will be a good story, and they'll stay in the wild card race, because for the last 2 years – no matter what happens, they come up smelling like roses.
So I'm going to make two statements on two teams in the NFL. You let me know if you agree with them or not. First one, the Dolphins are pretenders. Number one offense in the NFL, but they've lost to the Bills, the Eagles, and Chiefs, and beaten Patriots twice, Panthers, Giants, Broncos, and Chargers, which is no great shakes.
6-0 versus teams under 500, 0-3 versus teams over. Look, I think the injuries play a role to a certain point. But they've gotten healthy in the secondary. I understand A-Shane's out. David, I think at this point in the year, if you haven't beaten anyone with a record above 500, you might be phony. And that game against Kansas City was kind of gift-wrapped. It was right there for them. You're on a neutral field. You're both halfway across the world. They didn't show up in the first half. They didn't show up.
I'm going to say they are. They're fun to watch. They're
Very
entertaining. They have personality. But in a big game, man, put your money on whoever they're playing if that team has a winning record, because they just, they can bomb the Broncos. That's the Broncos.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Second statement is about the Ravens. They may be the best team in the NFL and may win the Super Bowl. They are rushing for 160 yards per game. They've also beaten the Bengals, who were down at the time. But Cleveland, Detroit, and Seattle, are they the best team in the NFL?
Right now, for me, they'd be number 2 behind Philly. Just because Philly's already more established. Lamar's been impressive with the changes he's made. The fact that they lost J.K. Dobbins and they just find running backs, because why, David?
You don't pay running backs.
Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, the Gus Bus, it doesn't matter. Top 5-0, top 5D, great special teams. Justin Tucker's a weapon. It's absolutely a Super Bowl team. If this is how Lamar's going to play, from the pocket, accurate throws, yeah, man, I'm there.
I can't say I can't say that, only because then there's games where they just look like, wow, who is this team? Well, thank God we got this all-world kicker, because he's going to score all the points for us. And then they'll go out and hammer teams like the Lions and Seattle. So I can't say they're the best team, David. They're definitely a Super Bowl caliber team, but not the best team. Philly, to me, finds ways to get the job done. It ain't pretty. None of their games are, but man, they do. They make the big plays when they have to.
So there was a lot of information, a lot of news coming out over the weekend regarding the Las Vegas Raiders, how the owner is losing $85 million because he fired his coach, his GM, the offensive coordinator. Then they also benched their quarterback, which means if they decide to cut him or trade him, that's $28 million in dead cap. But I think the most interesting story came out of Jay Glazer on Sunday morning when he talked about the team meeting and they just let it all hang out, said whatever they wanted to say, and that McDaniels let Antonio Pierce speak, and Antonio Pierce spoke on how the Giants had the mentality that they were going to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They just had it. They believe that they can do this. After that, Josh McDaniels went to Antonio Pierce and he says, don't talk about the Patriots like that.
Basically, this is the Spider-Man meme. Patricia is McDaniels. McDaniels
Pretty
is
much.
Patricia.
Pretty much.
They alienated an entire locker room of grown-ass men. You can't treat him that way. They begged him to change. He didn't. And the minute they got him gone, they just played more inspired football. I think it's real simple. Josh McDaniels and Patricia were good at what they did, but they could never be head coaches.
Yeah, they all wanted to be Bill Belichick, and they couldn't.
Yeah, those
and you
players
would have
believed
thought
in those guys.
You would have thought that if I left Belichick's tree, you know what? I'm going to do what no one else has done. I'm not going to try to be Bill. I'm going to try to be fun. I'm going to try to do this. They didn't, David. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you were more offended because you brought up the Patriots example. Like,
then go back to the Patriots.
Here's the other thing.
bro,
It
he
was
stood up for you, and yeah, I didn't like that example. Well, you know what? You're fired.
It's a weird thing, too. Did you see the reports that the $85 million will largely be paid by offset and mitigation? So, splashy headline, but it sounds like they won't be on the hook for nearly that.
Yeah, and real quick, Dave, before you get to your last one, let's give it up to the NFL because apparently somebody forgot to do their due diligence when it came to the flex games and move some things around. So Thursday night, we get Carolina at Chicago. But wait, Mike, there's more. You know what your Sunday night game is? Jets at Las Vegas.
Oh, come on.
They didn't change that.
They didn't change the game.
Oh,
they
God.
didn't flex it out.
Oh, God.
And then I guess you get a reprieve Monday night.
No, I don't.
Denver's at Buffalo.
I
That's
quit.
not a reprieve.
How do we go from 4 amazing games this week to that?
The Jets at in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right. This is a team I would rather see on any of those time slots, and that would be the Houston Texans. You know why? Because they're exciting to watch because of C.J. Stroud. I have to apologize to him. I was wrong. He came out of Ohio State, didn't think he would work out. Well, he's working out. 5 touchdowns, a comeback victory for him, 46 seconds left, and they won the game. He's top 10 in yards, top 5 in QB rating, top 10 in touchdowns.
You ever think
It's good.
You ever think why you formed that opinion? Which, by the way, I was guilty of too.
Why I formed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you feel like it wouldn't work out?
Because he didn't beat Michigan.
Huh. Interesting.
Just saying.
But hey, everyone's doing it.
Wait, does this mean you're going to give Brian Hartline a chance?
No. It just means we formed a narrative around CJ that he was soft and he couldn't get it done in that spot. He needed the Georgia game to reclaim himself. The reality is he may have been playing in 2 compromised football games.
You know who's pulling the Mike Valenti right now, picking up every chair in his house and throwing it down? That's Kerry Combs, defensive coordinator for Ohio State.
Hey, I lost his job. I'm just throwing it out there.
You're right about that.
I mean, it's just weird how 1 game or 2 games, and then this scandal comes out, and you can't prove it, but you go, geez, what if the 4 or 5 big moments I hold against him, what if some of those were compromised? Yeah, and guess what? Carolina got the wrong guy. The Keebler Elf, I will be in disbelief if he ever looks as good as Stroud.
But this is one of those times where the GM went with the smart pick, and he's this, and this guy got a 3 on the Wonderlic test, and that's, you get a 5 if you spell your name right, and he misspelled his last name. It's like, yeah, but he was good. I don't care. Okay.
And that is in football today.